In those little things we often miss, there's something in the air. Ignore the small clues that a woman leaves behind, whether she means to or not. Have you ever wondered how to tell if a woman hasn't been intimate for a while? Learning to read her behavior and gestures can reveal what she's saying outside of words. This isn't a guessing game or a superficial read. It's about understanding what's going on in her mind. Today, I'm going to give you 7 signs that may indicate a woman hasn't been with a man for a long time. If you can spot them, you'll be able to figure out what she's feeling and how to approach her in a respectful and thoughtful way. It's about how she feels and the energy she gives off when she wants something but hasn't gotten it yet. Hi, my name is Celia. If this is your first time on my channel, please subscribe and hit the bell icon. Not only will what you read here surprise you, it will also give you the tools to improve your personal and mental life in a real way. Let's start with the first thing that everyone knows. The body doesn't lie. There's something fascinating about body language, especially when a woman is conveying more than she realizes. When a woman hasn't had intimate contact for a while, her body unconsciously begins to reveal that pent-up sexual energy. It's not always something she does on purpose, but the signs are there waiting to be noticed. And when you know how to observe, when you pay attention, you can detect that unmasked sexual energy in small gestures. Let me tell you a story. A few years ago, a friend of mine told me about a co-worker who had started behaving differently around him. It wasn't something obvious, but there were certain details in how she moved. When she was near him, he described how in what seemed like a casual conversation, she would lean slightly closer to him, hold eye contact longer than usual, and play with her hair in a way he hadn't noticed before. It wasn't blatant flirting, but something subtler yet constant. That energy which had been contained was starting to surface. What happens is that when a woman hasn't had intimate contact for a while, her body starts looking for ways to release that tension. She may not even be consciously thinking about it, but her body reflects it. Psychological studies have demonstrated that unspoken sexual energy can manifest through repetitive actions such as biting her lips, touching her hair, or maintaining long, subtle physical contact with the person in front of her. These are actions that, if you're not paying attention, it's simple to miss. But if you look closely, you'll see what's going on. The body doesn't lie. Words have the power to conceal or alter the truth. Body language is a direct window into what someone is feeling, and in the case of a woman who hasn't been intimate for some time, those small gestures leaning towards you, seeking your proximity, or even casually and repeatedly touching you, are signals that her desire is looking for an outlet. Now, it's important not to jump to conclusions or misinterpret every gesture. You need to be observant. Yes, but also wise in how you interpret what you see. Often these small movements are her subtle way of opening up, of showing you that she might be interested in something more, but she wants to see if you pick up on the signals. So, when you're in conversation with a woman, pay attention to her body language. Does she hold your gaze longer than usual? Does she touch her hair or lips in an almost unconscious manner? Does she seem to seek your physical proximity even when it's not necessary? These are signs that there's probably some built-up sexual energy that's seeking release. Remember, it's all in the details. Women who haven't been intimate for a while may not express it verbally, but their bodies communicate in ways that, if you can read them, reveal all the information you need. When you become aware of these gestures, you can begin to respond more intuitively and more connectedly, as they are subtly revealing a deeper meaning behind their words and smiles. There's always something waiting to be discovered. Secondly, playful and provocative humor can serve as a bridge to intimacy. When a woman hasn't been intimate for a while, her mind may begin to play with ideas, comments and jokes, often with a provocative or double-edged twist, as a way to test the waters. She is testing the waters to see if you will react, and she doesn't do it by accident. Picture this. You're in a group of friends just another afternoon, and she drops a seemingly innocent comment, something that in another moment might have been taken purely as a joke, but this time there's something different. Maybe the comment has a more intimate undertone. Perhaps he said, "It's been so long since anything exciting has happened in my life," with a light laugh and a gaze that lingers a bit longer than usual. This type of humor, laced with innuendo, is no coincidence. A few months ago, one of my friends told me about his neighbor. He used to talk to her in a nice, casual way, but all of a sudden, she started making slightly bolder jokes. He initially thought it was just conversation, but he soon realized there was more. The tension between them had been building for a while, and these jokes seemed harmless. The psychology of humor is fascinating, especially when it comes to human relationships. Humor is a powerful way to connect with people, and when a woman uses double entendre, she's doing it to see how the person responds. Of course, she won't be overt, as she understands the delicate balance between suggestion and discomfort, but her subtle provocation serves as a tactic to gauge your willingness to engage. It's not just what she says, but also how she says it. If she starts talking about private things or makes bold comments in a casual setting, it's likely that she's sending signals. What's interesting is that she often disguises it as humor to protect herself. If she doesn't get the reaction she's hoping for, she can easily laugh it off and move on as if nothing happened. But if you catch the tone and the conversation becomes a little more charged with that playful banter, then you'll know there's something deeper at play. I remember a friend of mine, Marta, who always said humor was her secret weapon. If I make a joke about something intimate, she once confessed, "It's because I want to see if he's bold enough to play along." That's how many women test the waters, looking for a connection beyond the everyday chit-chat. So, dear, when she starts joking about topics that never came up before, pay attention. Don't just focus on the laughter or the surface of the comment. Playful, provocative humor is an invitation to step into her emotional world, and in many cases, a clear sign that it's been a while since she's had intimate contact, and that her mind and her body are seeking a connection. Number 3. The need for physical affection. One of the clearest ways for a woman to say what she wants to say is through physical contact. When a woman hasn't had intimate contact for a while, her need for it can subtly but significantly grow. I'm not referring to overt hugs or caresses, but rather to subtle gestures of intimacy that attempt to convey messages she might not feel comfortable expressing directly. I remember Laura, an old friend's co-worker. He told me that his interactions with her started to feel different. He now accompanied what used to be a casual greeting with a hug that lasted a bit longer than usual, or a light touch on the arm during conversation. At first he didn't think much of it, but over time these gestures became more common. These gestures were not intrusive, yet they conveyed a need for closeness, a desire for touch, or a silent plea for attention. You might not think these actions are important if you don't know how to read them, but when a woman hasn't been close to someone for a while, her body unconsciously seeks that affection in everyday interactions. Perhaps she's remembering being close to someone. The desire for physical connection is beginning to manifest in subtle ways, such as the way she holds on tightly when she is with you, although she is not soliciting sex. Studies have shown that when humans lack physical contact, they develop a heightened need for tactile affection. It's a natural bodily response to the absence of intimacy. What's interesting is that these gestures aren't always intentional. Many times a woman isn't even aware that she's seeking that closeness. Her body simply responds instinctively, seeking warmth and the closeness of another person. This is where you need to be attentive. Perhaps it's a simple touch on your shoulder during a conversation, or perhaps her hug lasts a little longer than usual when you say goodbye, or perhaps when you're sitting close, you notice her legs brushing against yours in a casual yet persistent way. These signals, if you understand them, indicate that there's more going on than just friendship or casual interaction. However, it's important to remember that respect is paramount. This isn't the moment to misinterpret every touch as a direct invitation. On the contrary, it's about reading the situation carefully and responding with sensitivity. If a woman hasn't had close contact with you in a while, she may want affection, but she also needs to feel safe and understood. So the next time you feel that small brush of her hand on your arm or that hug that lasts a little longer, take a moment to ask yourself if she's looking for something more. Darling, beneath those unassuming gestures, there might be an entire universe awaiting exploration. 4. The way a woman talks changes when she hasn't been intimate for a while. For a long time, the way she talks can change in small but important ways. Suddenly, what used to be everyday conversations became more personal and touched on topics she may have avoided or quickly skimmed over before. This is when you need to improve your listening skills, because when a woman feels comfortable with you and is looking for something more, she can open up emotionally in a way that shows that need. I remember talking to my friend Isabel, who mentioned how after months of not being with someone, her conversations with certain close friends started to take a different direction. I don't do it intentionally, she said, but I find myself talking about my past relationships or how I miss feeling connected to someone, that vulnerability creeping into the conversation, that desire to share something more intimate, is a clear sign that there's something within her waiting to surface when a woman starts talking about her love life, or rather the lack of it. It's not because it's just a casual topic. She might tell you how much she's changed since her last relationship, or even drop lines like, "I can't even remember what it feels like to be with someone." She might say it with a smile. But behind those words, there's a deeper message. She's opening a window into her inner world, showing you that there's a void that has been there for a while, and maybe now it's starting to weigh on her more. A study I once read on emotional communication pointed out that when people feel lonely or in need of intimate connection, they tend to share more about themselves as a way of seeking that missing emotional bond. And when a woman who hasn't been intimate for some time starts to dive into these topics, it's no coincidence. She's looking for that safe space where she can express herself, and if she trusts you enough to talk about it, it's a clear sign that something more might be possible. What's intriguing is that these conversations often start off innocently enough. Maybe you're talking about relationships in general, or what it means to really connect with someone. But if she starts to talk about more personal things, like how lonely she is or what she misses about being in a relationship, you should pay attention. This isn't just her venting. This is her way of letting you see how she's really feeling. This is where you need to exercise caution, listen intently without interrupting, and give her the space to express what she's truly seeking. She needs someone who truly listens to her. What she needs most at that moment is to know that someone hears her words and understands how she feels. So don't be surprised when the conversation gets more personal. She's not saying it directly, but if you read between the lines and respond with empathy, her openness invites better connection in every way. If you're enjoying the video so far and feel like you're learning something new, don't forget to subscribe and give it a thumbs up to support this content. I also recommend watching it until the end, because those who are truly committed to understanding these signs and strengthening their relationships will find the most revealing insights. I have one final piece of advice that could potentially surprise you and significantly impact your life. Also, tell me where you're watching from. I'd love to know. Let's move on to number 5. The jealousy in silence. Women sometimes show their jealousy in such a subtle way that it's almost impossible to notice. But when a woman hasn't been intimate for a long time, these small, quiet jealousies can start to show in ways you wouldn't expect. They won't be dramatic or scandalous, but you'll notice small reactions that give you clues about what's going on inside her. This type of jealousy stems not only from ego, but also from a suppressed, deep desire. Under wraps. Think about casually mentioning another woman to friends or co-workers. Pay close attention to how she reacts. If the woman you're talking to falls silent for a moment longer than usual, changes the subject, or cracks a joke with an air of not caring, you might be seeing a sign. It's not possessive jealousy, but more of an internal reaction that says, "I wish I were the one getting that attention." This makes me think of Carolina, a friend from college who always seemed calm and relaxed when we talked. But when I started seeing someone new, everything changed. Carolina never said anything outright, but I started to notice little things. When I mentioned my new girlfriend, her responses would become shorter, or she would make subtle comments such as, "Well, some people get lucky in love." It wasn't a direct confrontation, but a gentle, persistent reaction that, at the time, I didn't know how to interpret. These silent jealousies are a clear sign of hidden interest, and in many cases they come from women who haven't had an intimate relationship for some time. That lack of physical and emotional closeness can cause them to perhaps unconsciously try to protect the connection they have with you. Even if they don't say it outright, they don't need to declare it, but you'll feel it in their subtle mood shifts or in how they react when other women come up in conversation. What's fascinating is that this jealousy often doesn't present itself as something negative. In fact, it can show up as a way for her to reclaim her place in your life. Even with humor, she might make a sarcastic comment or ask in a playful tone, "Do you talk to her like this too?" But behind that laugh, there's a small hint of concern. This isn't because of a real conflict, but because the idea of your attention being elsewhere stirs something that's been quietly simmering, a desire to be the one at the center of your thoughts. Many studies conducted by psychologists over the years have revealed that when jealousy manifests in a healthy manner, it can serve as a signal of interest and desire. It's like an internal alarm that tells us that the person we're interested in is important to us, and we want to keep that connection strong. So the next time you're talking to a woman you like, pay attention to those little signs. It could be a pause in the conversation, a slight tension in her expression, or a comment that seems like a joke but really means something else. Those little silent jealousies are her way of saying, "I want to be closer to you," and she's hoping that you'll pick up on it. This is where you need to be subtle and wise. There's no need for a big show or a straight argument. Sixth, sometimes the best thing you can do is just be there for her and show her that the attention she wants is already hers, so she doesn't have to compete for it. What she really wants is a deeper relationship with you. Invitations to spend time alone. Sometimes a woman's actions, not her words, are the clearest signs that she wants to get closer to you. I know this to be true because shared moments of intimacy help us lower our guard and see if there's really a deeper connection. That sparks more than just friendship. I remember a time in my life when, after being out of a relationship for a long while, I started noticing how I sought out moments to be alone with people who interested me. I didn't do it overtly, far from it, but instead of going out with a group or surrounding myself with friends, I'd suggest quieter plans like dinner or a movie at home, because sometimes what a woman desires, especially if she hasn't been intimate for a while, is to create those moments where closeness can naturally arise without feeling forced. There's a reason we prefer these more private settings when a woman invites you to do something one-on-one. It's not just to chat or pass the time. What she's doing is creating a space where emotional and possibly physical intimacy can grow free from interruptions or the distractions of others. And while it might seem like an innocent invitation on the surface, there's an underlying meaning waiting to be uncovered. The truth is, when I've been in those situations, I felt a mix of excitement and curiosity. On one hand, I wanted to see how the other person would act in a more intimate setting without distractions. On the other hand, I was also testing the waters, seeing if there was mutual interest, if that time alone would allow us to explore a connection. Outside of normal activities, the need to be close to someone for a deeper conversation or simply to feel their presence becomes more apparent. Often, when we're alone with someone, we find ourselves drawn to impromptu moments. Perhaps it's a conversation that delves deeper than anticipated, or a shared laughter that ignites a deeper connection. It's not just about physical proximity, but about fostering an environment where both parties feel at ease, allowing words to flow freely and gazes to linger a bit longer than usual. If you ever find yourself in this situation where a woman starts suggesting plans for just the two of you, pay attention. It's not just about spending time together. It's about seeing if there's an openness to something more intimate, and most importantly, observe how the dynamic changes when you're alone. Sometimes just sharing a quiet space can reveal more than you imagine. It's in these moments that real connection happens. It's not about making grand gestures or seeking an immediate response. Sometimes, simply being present in the silence and enjoying each other's company speaks volumes. If she asks you to spend time alone, know that she's making a move. If you are able to discern her intentions, that call might mark the beginning of a more profound relationship. When flirting becomes constant, the tone changes. Suddenly, every touch between you carries a different charge, a stronger energy, and the subtle game intensifies. When a woman hasn't been intimately involved with a man for a while, this can naturally start to happen. It's no longer just a smile or a quick look here and there. Now every talk and comment seems to be laced with a subtle provocation in that never-ending game. I can say from personal experience that when a woman starts to feel desire for you, flirting can become a way for her to test how you react. It's not something she plans. It just happens. The jokes change tone, the words start to have more than one meaning, and the eye contact lasts long enough for both of you to realize that your conversations are more than just casual chats. This kind of flirting is interesting because it's not hostile or forced. It's a dance where both people participate without saying anything directly. If you pay attention, you'll notice that her comments start to sound more playful, and her tone of voice changes a little when things get more personal. For example, she might tease you with a joke that flirts with the line, or she might laugh a little harder when you say something bold. I remember a time in my life when I wasn't in a serious relationship for a while, and then I started chatting with someone I liked more often. It wasn't on purpose, but I noticed that my comments became more direct. The constant element of seduction permeated our conversations. It was flirting that never went away. It was always there, as if we were waiting to see who would take the next step. The psychology of seduction teaches us that repeatedly flirting is a sign of interest and a way to gauge interest without making a direct commitment. If a woman has experienced physical disconnection, engaging in a game of seduction can help her regain a sense of closeness. Her desire to express herself and connect with others may exacerbate the situation. It's intriguing that this type of flirting can persist for weeks or even months, without either of you going overboard. It's like you're both enjoying the game, and the tension builds slowly over time. The important thing is to know what to do if she's constantly flirting with you. It's not just for fun. She's doing it to keep the spark alive and let you know she's interested without having to say it out loud. How can you tell if this flirting has a deeper meaning? Pay attention to whether it only happens with you. If there's a pattern to how she acts when you're together, If the tone is always light and playful, and if it feels like every conversation has a bit more emotional weight than it should, then it's likely that she started a game. In the game of constant flirting, it's not enough to take the first step. You also need to know when. If she has not been intimate with you in a while, she is likely engaging in conversation with you to determine whether you are also interested in playing. Patience is key here. It's not about rushing things, but enjoying the dynamic that's being created. So when you find yourself in the middle of that endless game of jokes, double meanings, and knowing smiles, realize that there's something more at play. She's waiting to see if you pick up on the message, if you're willing to follow her lead. Because in the end, this constant flirting is her way of telling you she's ready for something more, but she wants you to be the one to discover it. In the end, it all comes down to the ability to see what isn't always said in words. The signs a woman leaves when she's been without intimacy for a while aren't an impenetrable mystery, but rather glimpses of emotions, desires and needs seeking to be understood. What we've explored today is much more than a guide to understanding her subtle language. It's an invitation to connect from a more authentic and respectful place, because behind every gesture, every glance, there's a story waiting to be discovered, a desire to be seen, heard, and perhaps loved in life. It's those small moments of attention and true understanding that transform our relationships, and when you learn to read these signs with empathy and care, you become someone who's not just looking to fulfill a superficial need, but someone who understands and values what the other person is truly communicating. My name is Celia, and I want this to be a place of wisdom and reflection where we can openly discuss these topics, always with respect. Here we explore not only intimacy, but how to improve our everyday lives in every aspect, because every small change we make within ourselves is reflected in our relationships and the well-being of those around us. If this is your first time on my channel, I invite you to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of the upcoming topics. And if you've made it this far, I congratulate you, because it means you value your personal growth, and that deserves recognition. To know who among you is committed to this journey of self-discovery. Comment with "I love wisdom" and let me know where you're listening from. I'd love to read your messages and find like-minded people. Also, don't forget to share this video with someone who might need it. Sometimes, a simple piece of advice or thought can make a big difference in someone's life. See you in the next video, and keep in mind that understanding, not just the words spoken, is what matters most.